Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, checking out a fun and what I would consider a very hilarious video for you guys this evening, because we are playing Super Mario 3D All-Stars Deluxe, which is not the Switch version of the game, nor is it going to be the Switch 2 re-release of Super Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2, because Nintendo seems to think that they just made those two games last year and can still get an insane retail price for a package on Switch 2. So fans and modders out there basically went and packaged up every single game that would be on Super Mario 3D All-Stars, at least the modifications and emulations, not the game files, and have released a version of Super Mario 3D All-Stars that is just hands down better than what Nintendo released on the Switch, or even if you're running it on Switch 2. Kind of thumbing its nose at Nintendo in the funniest ways possible. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, got a Patreon link down below as well. But you're going to get a custom launcher along with all of the emulation files to run something like Super Mario 64, the PC port, 3D Land, Sunshine, Galaxy, as well as Galaxy 2. I'm going to be showing you footage from Galaxy as well as 64 and 3D Land, but I left off Galaxy 2 just because I didn't have time to do a lot of testing on that one, but in my limited experience it 100% worked. This is basically people out there going and taking all of the best community mods, emulation hacks, and everything else and bundling them together with a custom launcher so you can just give that its game files, sit down and have fun. And if you did play something like 3D All-Stars on the Switch, you're going to see here that Super Mario Galaxy just looks and performs that much better, because even though Nintendo absolutely hates emulation and loves to sue emulation makers, they also use emulation in all of their platforms, and I would say unfortunately Nintendo doesn't do a very good job when it comes to actually producing emulators. The only thing this isn't going to do, and no emulator out there would, is it's not going to upscale the built-in FMV sequences. I'm surprised Nintendo didn't do this real-time in-engine, but you're going to see definitely a visual change between the in-engine footage and the actual video quality of the FMV playback. Moving over to Super Mario 3D Land, this is the one that I think is improved the most by being an emulation versus an original 3DS, outside of the fact that obviously you're losing the 3D stereoscopic screen on the handheld. I've always loved this game, but there's something about playing it on my 65-inch OLED television via emulation with all of the internal running resolution bumps that just makes the game look that much prettier. Now if you notice any hitching whatsoever in the footage, that's just because this is the first time I've run 3D Land on this set of emulators via this actual launcher. So is going to be a little bit of shader caching, so when you see a hitch, it's not a performance issue, it's just that shader is caching for the first time. Now if you do have a shader cache built up from a different version of the emulator, you can move those files over, but for me I was using a different system than last time I captured 3DS, so they weren't available on my actual computer. But from the texture resolution here to the overall complexity of the geometry, this thing looks absolutely stunning in emulation, and I'm not sure what you're watching it on, could be a phone, could be a TV, but this game and the absolute vibrant colors that Nintendo chose for it just looks so good on an OLED television. And basically all of the controls are going to be set up for you just to use an Xbox 360 controller, Series X, or anything else in between. Now moving over to a really fun component of this actual package is going to support whatever PC port of Super Mario 64 you want to run. For here I'm doing render 96, and I showed this in a video a while ago, but you're going to be able to bring over your PC port installation and those files and be able to run it from the launcher in and of itself. Just think of it this way, you can sit down on your couch and have 5 incredible Mario games ready to play with all of the best enhancements turned on. You don't have to worry about anything other than sitting down and having fun. And just so you know, some of these things are relatively system intensive. I am running an i9-12900K with 64 gigabytes of RAM and a 3080 Ti, so some of these settings you might need to dial down in the emulators just in case you are seeing any sort of frame issues outside of the rendering of the cache on the shaders. But this is just so much fun. I love ray tracing in Mario, even if it isn't perfect. It's just an absolute vibe. But I get that there's a lot of different emulators out there and a lot of different games, and considering Nintendo released Super Mario 3D All-Stars, fans figured we could do it better, we could do it cheaper, we could make it look a lot prettier than Nintendo did and give you a better time of it. But we're moving back into Galaxy for our first soundtrack sample and talking about the Galaxy emulation, and I'll be right back with more. mean, of course it sounds incredible. Not only is it Super Mario Galaxy, which has some of the best music in any Mario game in my opinion, but it's also the Dolphin emulator, so you know the sound quality coming out is going to be outstanding. And that is what everything here that isn't 3D Land or Super Mario 64, the PC ports, are going to be working on, are going to be the Dolphin emulation suite. So you're basically going to have all the settings dialed in and everything is just going to work outside of one strange thing about a texture in Super Mario Sunshine, at least on my system, and I had AndDD also take a look into it. It can cause some frame pacing issues, so I will leave in the text description below what one filter you need to turn off to make sure that you don't have that pacing problem, because if you see it playing like a slideshow, you're going to know you're exhibiting that bug as well. Even put a GitHub ticket open on the GitHub page, which is linked down below, so that the developers know about that as well and can fix it in the background. Or it could be one of those things you might never ever notice it at all. But Super Mario Galaxy looks outstanding in Dolphin with all of the improvements and all of the bumps to the resolution. And this is just a smoother, better experience than Nintendo shipped on a cartridge for 3D All-Stars, and it kind of is slightly embarrassing because Nintendo owns these games. They just need to do a better job at emulation. I know I like to poke fun at Nintendo on the channel for their insane lawsuits, but I really wish they would dedicate more time to making these classic Mario games run better on their own hardware. It's basically like they get it running just enough to work, to not crash or have major bugs, and then they kind of just ship it and ignore it completely from there. If the community can do this good of a job at emulating Nintendo games, then Nintendo should be able to do even better, because they still have all the documents on how all the systems work, where actual emulation authors need to make some guesses around the edge. Let's move over to Super Mario Sunshine, which is my favorite 3D Mario platformer of all time, and I think it is the best one ever made, but I totally get that is a controversial opinion. You can disagree with me down below. Now, this one does have a few hitches here and there, but again, this package is basically day 1 as of me recording this video, and probably day 3 when you're actually watching it. And pro tip, if you use ultra-wide monitors like I do, you're going to have to go into Dolphin and set the aspect ratio. You're going to force 16:9, or if you want to, force 4:3. Because by default it is going to use whatever aspect ratio your monitor supplies the operating system. And because I use dual ultra wides for editing and my work, this thing was definitely stretched to hell until I went in there. It can run in ultra wide if you want to, it just doesn't look great, but in 16:9, amazing. And this does have a full 4K texture pack as well as a 60 frame per second patch applied, so you're going to be able to just jump in and enjoy the best version of Sunshine you can get without doing anything. But a soundtrack sampled too, and I'll be right back with more. I mean, it sounds good to my ear, and I've always loved the Sunshine soundtrack. Moving back over to 3D Land, what I really think this is doing is showing you just how poor Nintendo emulation is on their own systems. Nintendo has the rights to all these games, and they can sell them as many times as they want for whatever price they're asking for. That is their right, and I don't begrudge them for that, even if I think they're asking absolute batshit crazy prices for some of the stuff that they're re-releasing. But the problem is they release these games and their own emulation packages just don't do a very good job. Whether it's NSO or whether it's some of the other packages, there's definitely problems, and it's not the best looking version of the game, because there have been some examples online already of previews of the new Galaxy and Galaxy 2 combo pack, where you can actually see that Dolphin's doing a lot better job with the graphics than Nintendo's own offerings. So the reality is the community out there just showing you not only can they do it better, but they can do it for a lot cheaper. Now, of course, you need to own all of these games before you play them. I always tell you that, and I do think you should pick them up if you don't have them, because they are incredible. But this is just a fun community effort showing you that you can do a ton of things in emulation, and even if you're not an emulation expert, the community will go out there and make these packages for you so that you can enjoy the games without having to find all the disparate texture packs, frame rate patches, and everything else in between. You leave me a comment down below and you tell me if you played this yet, did you know it existed, and of all the 3D Mario games ever made, which one is your favorite? I will say right now, Super Mario Sunshine will always be my favorite, and I hope one day Nintendo will be cool and finally make a Sunshine 2. I don't expect that to happen whatsoever, but I would love to see it. Just take the concept of Super Mario Odyssey, put it in the Isle Delfino areas, and I will be a very happy person indeed. But we're done. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.